The scene unfolds with a guy being confused where he was, as it was different from where he usually resided. Soon after, a girl approached his room. She was gentle and welcoming. She wished his morning to be good by calling him Lucio-sama. He was demented to hear that name. His eyes got broadened and ears got erected to know the full details about the same. The scene focuses on Lucio-sama supposedly having a fun banter with a soft and beautiful girl. She seemed to be his companion and someone who was very close to him. The girl who approached him seemed to be his caretaker, telling her young master Lucio where he was going. According to her, she had not finished dressing him yet. It looked like he was not ready for it. He was supposed to be reserved and more in himself and his time. He asked her if she could not leave him alone already. After she left, he was standing at a door mysteriously, and without letting people around him know about it. He looked at it and commented that it looked good and he should go and hide in there. As soon as he opened the door, the room was full of books and he was amazed to look at it. He stated while being amazed that there were so many books. He interrogated if that place was a library or something. An old man with wrinkles all around his face appeared that he was right. That place was Grandpa's library. He was surprised to hear him saying Grandpa. Lucio once mentioned that it was amazing. His grandpa, according to him, laughed as a form of pride and commented that Grandpa had been collecting grimoires his entire life. Lucio was demented to hear grimoires and asked what it was. His grandpa asked if he was interested, and he presented him with the book. According to him, that was a grimoire that he just got the other day. He further asked if he wanted to try reading it. He took and told him that he would surely take a look. He contemplated that it would be troublesome if the maid from earlier found him, so he would hide out there and read. As soon as he opened it, his eyes widened as if he knew something about it. He asked if that was manga. His grandpa replied by questioning why it was so difficult. Grandpa, who was his, could still not read it yet. He stated that no matter how he looked at it, it was just a manga. His grandpa smiled gently and told that he was going to read another grimoire. He, with those inquisitive eyes, agreed with his statement. As soon as his grandpa left, he opened the grimoire and started reading the manga. He looked at his grandpa while reading and pondered that it seemed like it was really difficult for his grandpa to read it. Meanwhile, his grandpa was reading another grimoire which was understandable to him. He pondered looking at his grimoire that it was looking like a book that was really hard to read. He later on justified himself that it was just a manga. It was not difficult at all, he added. The grandpa caught him standing in front of him looking at him. He asked what it was and if he had given up already. Lucio replied to him with those confident eyes that he had finished reading it. Grandpa was so shocked that he stood up and questioned what the heck it was and if he had read it before. Lucio-sama denied all his inquiries, as he did not read it before. That made Grandpa think about it. It was really unacceptable and something that could not be expected from a child like him. Lucio-sama's residence is showcased. Lucio-sama was seen questioning himself that somehow he felt reading it was bad. His grandpa asked him if he saw that tree over there. He said he did. He then told him to try shooting a fireball at it. Lucio-sama asked if he was telling to hit that fireball and did not get it. He answered that the grimoire he read was for fireball. If he really read it, then he should be able to use the magic fireball. He was convinced and stated that he should give it a try. He raised his right hand and chanted fireball. The tree soon started buying. He was very happy and asked if something actually came out. His grandpa was shocked once again. He appraised him that he really read it. He asked if it was really the first time he had read a grimoire. He confirmed it. His grandpa questioned him about what he was doing before he came there. He replied to him he did nothing much besides getting chased by that maid. Grandpa told him that he could not use magic unless he read the grimoire. After listening to him, he asked if read a grimoire then he could use magic. He answered that it was right and requested if he could try reading that one then. He offered him another grimoire to test him. He opened it, looked at it carefully and thoroughly and asked if it was fire laser. Something fishy happened, as the fire being caught in the tree did something to his grimoire which was fire laser according to him. He smiled and exclaimed that something happened again. His grandpa appreciated him and found his skill to be outstanding. He patted Lucio-sama affectionately and told him that it looked like he really could read grimoires. He told his little Lucio that he was amazing. He was happy to hear his grandpa appreciate him and his skill. He was contemplating that after all that he guessed it was not a dream. He confirmed that he died. His grandpa was telling him that he should go have a meal and should take a nap then. He told him that he would see him again later. The answer why he said that he was dead and everything was surprising to him, we'll get it now. He was seen mentioning that he was being reincarnated into another world. Soon after, the maid interrogated him. It looked like she was in search of him for hours. She told her young master that she had finally found him. He was having a full-fledged meal. His maid told him that he had not even had breakfast yet. He apologized to Amanda as he was having too much fun. He was affirming that he could use the magic, as his life in another world was the best. The scene unfolds with Lucio-sama lying on his bed and contemplating by looking at his hand that since he was then inhabiting that body, that meant that the original Lucio was gone. According to him, he knew that he was not really lying about being Lucio, but he was still a little nervous. He looked at Amanda standing still over a distance and asked her how long she had been standing there. She told him that she had been there since he started staring at his hands.
Hey, if you haven't subscribed to my channel on YouTube, then do it, or else I will kidnap you and put you in my basement.
It was the day of lights and new opportunities. Lucio woke up and wished Amanda good morning. He asked her how she was doing that day. She smiled cheerfully and wished him morning back. According to her, she was doing well. He, after hearing the word master, pondered that he was still not used to being called young master. He, after a moment, was seen asking whether she had been working there for a long time. She answered him by confirming to him as she had been serving a Martin family quite a while then. As soon as he heard the word Martin, he got to know that it was his family's name. He asked her where the other members of the family were. She replied to him that the head of family and Isekai'd were out on business. He was puzzled to hear the name of Isekai'd. She told him he was his older brother and inquired him if he was perhaps still half asleep. He was awkward and told her that it was not what she was thinking. Something entered his room. It was somebody related to Lucio-sama. He asked Lucio if he called for him. Lucio sure shot did not know him and wondered who that was. Meanwhile, Amanda was welcoming him home by calling his name, which was Isekai'd. After hearing her, Lucio-sama pondered if that was his older brother. Isekai'd told him that he did not greet him like he always does. After hearing his siblings' complaint, he welcomed his NLL-sama. Isekai'd asked him where he was heading to. He replied to him that their grandfather gave him the key to the library, so he was going to go and read a grimoire. As soon as he heard him, he was flabbergasted and did not believe him. He told him that there was no way he could read such a difficult book and told him not to lie. He replied that it was not a lie. It seemed like he was going to test his credibility. He told him that he wanted him to read a grimoire in front of him to prove it. He agreed to his command and told him that they should head to the library. He told Amanda to see her later. After hearing him, she wondered if that was all right. He took a grimoire out of the cabinet and contemplated that looked like a grimoire for ice magic. Isekai'd pointed a grimoire and asked if he could read that as he wanted him to show him. Meanwhile, he was trying to get what was mentioned in it. Lucio-sama interrupted him by asking if he could read it. He, despite knowing a fact that he could not be, said of course he could. Their grandfather entered the library and commented all of a sudden that he should let him see him use that ice magic. Their ice balls caught him standing there. Isekai'd was stunned to see his grandfather there. He further told them that they should go to the garden. Soon they were in the garden as per his command. He told Isekai'd to try using the ice magic. It seemed like he did knew how to do it. It was clearly visible from his facial expressions. Their grandpa seemed pissed and told Isekai'd that he not only went in his library without permission, but then he also lied about being able to read the grimoire. According to him, what he did was something unbecoming of the eldest son of the Martin house. He was really not happy with what he did. Isekai'd soon after his insult pointed at Lucio-sama and told that he was also guilty. According to him, Lucio said that he could read the grimoire and too. His grandpa looked at him and asked if he could use the ice magic from that grimoire. He smiled as a gesture that he could. He pointed his hand at the bushes and did what he was told to do. Grandpa looked at him carefully and commented that, as expected of him, that was indeed ice magic. Lucio-sama agreed to him. Isekai'd was stunned and jealous. Grandpa commanded Amanda to keep Isekai'd in his room for 3 days. She agreed to his command and requested Isekai'd to make his way to his room. Grandpa looked at him with those strict eyes and asked if he was really going to obey his command. Meanwhile, Lucio-sama was wondering if he guessed that it was never good to lie no matter where he was. Lucio-sama was commenting that what he learnt that day was that lying seemed to be frowned upon in the Martin family. The scene unfolds with Lucio-sama being hiding behind his grandpa, as he was being terrified by someone very close to him gazing right onto his soul. After a moment, a girl, very young, fell on the ground. She was the young wife who was trying to escape silently before anybody's eyes could get her. Soon everything got messed up as she fell on the Lucio. Hospitality and humanity showcased here as he ran as soon as she fell on the ground to see if she was alright. She looked at him shyly. She looked familiar to him, but he could not get her identity as he was reincarnated and everything was very new and unknown to him. According to him, 1 month had passed since he came to that world. He was in his grandpa's library looking out for some grimoire. He was stating that it gets too dark to read when it rains. He had to use magic to brighten things up, he commented. He used his skill of filament to brighten up his library. According to him, he had read through roughly 2/3 of his grandpa's library in the past month. In doing so, he had learnt over 999 magic spells. Soon after, his grandpa saw him there and approached him. He told him that his bride was on her way there and should arrive the day coming. He then advised him to be nice and make her feel welcomed. Lucio assured him that he would do that. After chit-chatting, he started reading once again. After a moment, he realized what he was actually being said to do was something very out of the box and unpredictable. He was puzzled if he was being said to welcome his bride. He turned back and asked his grandpa what he had just said. He replied to him in a normal tone that his fiancée was coming over the day coming. He got furious and anxious and told him how it could be possible as he was 6 years old. Grandpa told him that was fine, because she was 6 years old as well. Lucio told him to hold on and questioned him how that was even possible. Grandpa was very calm and composed. He sighed and stated that, as expected, he should explain it from the start. He began to explain to him from the beginning that Lucio does have a fiancée. She was the granddaughter of his best friend. His friend and him decided to betroth him to each other long ago. Originally, she would have been married much later. His friend was a merchant. His business was falling and his house was on a downfall. He tried his best to save him, but it was too late by the time he found out what was going on. According to him, he was only able to save his friend's granddaughter, so he decided to take care of her. He tells him that if he makes that girl his relative, he could keep her safe. He apologized to him for having to do this and requested to take care of her as his bride. He replied to him that he understands that. He contemplated that it could not be helped if that was the case. He was skeptical that he didn't know if it was because of his feelings, but he thought would just treat her like a sister. His future bride arrived on the bullock cart. Both Grandpa and Lucio were there to welcome her as a form of hospitality and welcoming gesture. She put her first baby step on the ground. Her presence was very off as she looked poor and unhappy. There were stains of dirtiness and clothes were not matching to their royal status due to whatever reasons. When her eyeballs caught Lucio Sama standing there, she was embarrassed as hell and was trying to hide herself. Lucio was very gentle and requested his grandpa to allow him. He used his magic spells which he learnt while reading grimoire to dress her up, which suits her best. She was all dressed up in a beautiful dress with flowers in her hands. She looked pretty and royal. She was stunned as it was out the box for her. Lucio, as a typical groom, went on his knees, held her hands, kissed it and welcomed Sylvia, his lovely bride. She was very shy and blushing. Grandpa witnessed all of that and appreciated Lucio for his efforts to comfort her. The sweet life of two young lovers begins, and thus a new family had begun. The scene begins with Lucio Sama contemplating that they were a family then. A bit later, in the evening, he came to think of it as where Sylvia was going to sleep. He went to his grandpa and asked what Sylvia's room was. His grandpa was surprised and asked him what he was talking about. According to him, he was supposed to sleep with his wife. After listening to him, he contemplated that he supposed that did make sense. He agreed with him. Meanwhile, Sylvia was listening to them without uttering a word. It was a time of darkness where only the moon, clouds and stars could be seen and the only source of light. The palace was showcased. It was the room of Lucio Sama. He was seen lying in his bed struggling to sleep, as it was an awkward moment for him to sleep with a girl all of a sudden and vice versa. He was Sylvia on the bed at corners and holding a pillow as a form of companion. Her back was facing him. He asked her what was wrong with her. She was looking terrified and frightened as if she had done something fishy. He asked her if she was sleepy. His hands got wet when came closer to her. He got to know that it was bedwetting. According to him, it was a bitter memory from the past. She began dropping the droplets of tears from her eyes. He told her that she would catch a cold if she stayed like that. He further tells her that they should go and get changed. It seemed like she was trying to say something but couldn't utter it clearly. He assured her that it was fine. She did not have to worry about it. She finally asked him whether he was not angry. He replied to her with a broad smile that there was no reason for him to be angry. She told him that she was sorry. That happened when she slept in a place she did not know. He asked her if that was so. She was holding a pillow, tightly squishing it as a form of belonging. She once again apologized to him for whatever she had done unknowingly. He replied that it was okay and told her that she could take her time getting used to that place. She looked a little bit comfortable. He was going to take off her clothes. She was ready for it. He was wiping her off around her lower region as she had to be hygienic and clean before she dressed up into a new attire by his spell. After cleaning her up, he dressed her up. She was all into a new and beautiful frock. She looked pretty. He thought that would work for her pajamas. After that, it was the time for the bed to get revamped. He changed the bed into all new and the big one with his magic attributes. He saw it and commented that the bed was so big, it was hard to lay it out. He called Amanda. She was there in a minute. She asked her young master if he called for him. She cleaned and arranged the bedsheet for them. He gave her a look that it was time for her to disperse. Both Sylvia and Lucio were in bed. He told her to come on, as they should go to sleep. She asked him diligently if she could hold his hands. He agreed to her. They both hold their hands. He told her that they should get married the next day. Her cheeks were pink and eyes were broadened. She was not expecting that to happen all of a sudden, and that to the very next day. She was silent for a moment, and after a moment she said that she yes with a vivacious smile and tears in her eyes. He told her that the coming day was the wedding, so that they should have a big celebration. The scene unfolds with Lucio Sama commenting on him and Sylvia getting married and becoming the new young couple. According to him, they swore their vows and officially became husband and wife. They were seen sitting on a chair in the park together. He was pondering that he had just read all the grimoire then. He stared at her, glancing at him. He asked her if she could read it. She said that she could not, it looked really difficult. He again asked if she could not read it at all. She said that she could not. He thought it might just have been difficult for older people, but it seems that kids could not read them either. He got to a point that normal people really couldn't read them. He was steaming in sweat and told her that it sure was hot that day. He further tells her that he was thirsty since it was so hot and asked why did not they grab some water. She agreed to him. They began to get it. In between the same, he had some wooden blocks in the passage and Amanda was supervising them. He asked Amanda what was all that. She replied to him that was drinking water. He was surprised that it was drinking water and all that trouble just for water. She replied to him that the water around there was of awful quality and could not be drunk, not even if it was boiled. So that's why they had to get clean water from a spring like that. He further asked if that was not a lot of trouble. She told him that it was not at all trouble for them, that was just how it was. According to her, the people living there have long since gotten used to it. He pondered about undrinkable water. The newlywed couple were in the woods hunting for something. He was holding her hands and leading her to something. In the woods there was a river of fresh water flowing. They reached there. He got glass with his magic traits and was on his way to extinguish his thirst. While looking at it, he pondered that it looked just like normal water. He licked it to confirm himself. It was not what he was looking for, and his face was the live example of it. His face shrank short when he tasted. He sure shot did not like the taste of it. He was trying his best to rinse that taste off his mouth. Sylvia asked him if he was okay. He smiled and told her that he was okay. He thought that the taste of it was so awful. It really was undrinkable. He put his hand around the glass of undrinkable water, spell distillation to purify it. Soon after his spell, the water started bubbling. He looked at it and wondered if the spell looked like it had some purifying effect, but he could not help but wonder if it was safe. After the spell, he gave that glass of undrinkable water to his wife Sylvia. She drank it immediately as she was very thirsty. He asked her if she was okay. She told him that she was fine. The water tastes great according to her. He once again asked if she was really fine and if she did not feel anything wrong. She told him that she did not feel anything wrong and she was fine. Now it was his turn to taste it. He drank it fearfully. He was surprised, but it really did taste great after his spell, and everyone could drink that, he added. Since he came all the way there, he was wondering if there was another way to use that water. He told Sylvia that he had come to think of it. He had not seen any ice around and asked why that was. She was surprised whether he was talking about ice. She told him that ice was a luxury item. He contemplated if that meant it was barely sold at all. He stood up and commented that in that case, he might use that spell. Meanwhile, Sylvia was trying to figure out what he meant by that. The scene commences with an Alsan village where a guy all with his companion are seen using a well to satisfy their water needs. The lady with him was sweating hard in the hot weather and was stating that she was sure that it was hot out. According to her, that heat was really making her want some water, and she was sure that it was annoying not being able to drink water when he wanted to. The guy replied to him that she could say that again. Going all that way to pick up some water was just too much. Somebody half of their age interrupted by asking them how about drinking the water there. The guy was puzzled about what he was talking about. He led him and was taking out the water all alone from the well. The lady was behind him and thinking about who that kid was. He used his distillation spell to make that water drinkable and drank it in front of them. The old lady was terrified and was worried for him. She ran towards him to stop him and asked if he was fine. He smiled and assured her that he was fine. He further commented that he used a water purifying spell. The lady was stunned to hear if he was talking about a spell. He offered her the glass of water and told her that it was completely safe and told her to try it. and further said that if he was worried that he was tricking her, she should just try it. She tried it. She was flabbergasted. She commented that it was wonderful. It was the time for him to introduce them. He introduced them by telling them that his name was Lucio Martin. According to him, he was currently visiting all the village springs around there. The guy told him to wait as he wanted to ask him if he meant that he was going around purifying water. The lady also asked him whether by Martin he meant the House of Martin. She further stated that when she came to think of it, she heard that they had collected a lot of grimoires. She got to know that it was true. Lucio told them that he would once a week purify water. He added that he was to get a reward. The guy told him that would be a really big help. They no longer had to carry heavy water from so far away. The lady found that to be amazing for a kid of his age to be able to use magic. She heard grimoires were terribly difficult to read. He replied to her that he could use other spells too. He showcased his spell attributes as a form of demonstration. He used Celsius Zero spell to solidify the water. Both of them were stunned and the guys asked if that was ice. The lady also asked him if he could even make ice with magic. She was wondering how long it had been since he last saw ice. He held the glass of ice and exclaimed that it was really cold. He told him that he thought he could make something so rare by using magic. Lucio commented that he would sell both ice and water for much cheaper than it was then. He further told them he would still come regularly and asked them what they did think. He told him that ice was a real luxury. According to him, he would be happy to buy it cheap. The lady added that it would be a great help. She ran back by stating that she would go tell everyone right away. The guy told him that still it was amazing that someone his age would start a business. He replied to him that he does have a wife after all. By hearing this, Sylvia blushed. The man was stunned to hear that. After a moment he patted him and told him of course if he had a wife. He corrected himself and stated that if a man gotta earn money. It was time for Lucio and Sylvia to get dispersed. He told him that he would look forward to his business. The guy told him that the feeling was mutual. The house of Lucio Sama is showcased. He was seen doing something extravagant. He mentioned in between his procedure that if they take the ice and do that, then they have the snack known as shaved ice. He offered her and told her to give it a try. She modestly asked if she could really try it. He tells her that she could as it was really good. She had the first bite. Her face was shrunk and mind was freezed as it was really cold. He smiled and told her that was what happens when one eats too much at once. She dipped the spoon in the shaved ice and offered him a bite. He found it to be delicious. Their mood was enlightenment and refreshed. He states that Amanda got him everything for the machine so they should give her some next. And then, he wondered if Grandpa would like some too. Sylvia told him that she was sure they would be glad to. The scene unfolds with Lucio Sama commenting that it had been 1 week since he started earning money, so that day was his off. According to him, the purification was all going to plan. It earns him a pretty penny, so he saved up a bit of money. He was seen telling his wife Sylvia that they should go to the archive that day. She agrees to him. They were sitting peacefully in the library and having a dessert of shaved ice. Sylvia was offering him the bite of the shaved ice while he was reading grimoire. He had it. Her eyes caught the grimoire which he was reading and she asked what that grimoire was called. He replied to him that it was called Raging Mist. Somebody was yelling at somebody and calling him a massive idiot. He heard it and stated that it was Grandpa's voice and he was wondering what was wrong. He told Sylvia to go see what was up. She agrees to him. They both ran towards the place where the voice was coming. It was outside the building. He got to know that it was Isaac and if he was getting scolded again. Grandpa was questioning him with a louder pitch if he had not told him to be suspicious of deals that sounded too good. And yet he wasted a huge amount of money with no proof. Isaac tries to defend himself that Bruno said it was a sure way to earn money that he would easily double his investment. Grandpa told him bluntly that of course it would not happen. Lucio Sama was witnessing all of that and he was looking sad for his brother's dumbness. He was wondering if he had fallen for the oldest trick in the book. Meanwhile, the grandpa was telling him to think, if it was such a good deal, why didn't Bruno or whatever just invest his own money? This point made Isaac think about his fault and sheer dumbness. Isaac told him that he said it was a tip especially for him since they were friends. Lucio, after hearing and stated with a lower pitch that there was another old trick. Grandpa told him an idiot and according to him that was what all swindlers say. He commanded him to go and reflect on what he had done. He was very furious and done with Isaac's mudlessness. He went to his room after that. Isaac saw Lucio and his wife standing and watching all his insults. He was pissed. He questioned him about what the hell he was doing and looked at him like that. He told him that he was not going to reflect on it at all. He yelled at him to stop looking at him like that. According to him, he was just a kid who knew nothing about work. Sylvia tries to defend her hubby, but was stopped by Isaac, who passed a derogatory comment that she should shut up as a bought woman like her should know her place. This statement really hit her and raged her to her core. She was trying to hold it by holding her fist in the gown tightly. Soon the droplets of tears started dropping from her eyes as she could control it. Lucio saw her being sad and hurt. Lucio-sama asked Inel-san what that was and he could ask if he had ever earned any money. He was surprised and asked what he meant by that. He replied to him that he had just never seen him making any money. According to him, he always does nothing but screw business up. He further asked if he could even call that working. Isaac told him to shut up and he even called him brat. According to him, earning money was not that simple. Lucio presented the bundle full of his hard work and smartness. He told him that he had made 100,000 seta in 1 week. Isaac was stunned. He was confident that this was what he could earn and asked him how much money he could earn in 1 week. He was awkward and embarrassed asking what he was doing. Isaac smiled and said that he was just saying that unlike him. According to him, he could use magic, so he had been doing business, purifying water. NLL-san's face was proof of his embarrassment and insult. He smiled as if nothing happened and commented that it was pocket money, perfect for a kid playing house like him. He guessed that he was right, but he could not even earn that much, he asked. He further stated that he was not even married either. He mocked him that it seemed even playing house was too much for him. NLL-san was embarrassed as hell. He tried to escape from there. It seemed like Lucio-sama was not going to spare him for his wife's insult. He was following him to catch him. He escaped as Lucio-sama was stopped by his wife Sylvia. She was very thankful to him for fighting for her respect and pride. Her eyes were wet. He wiped off her tears with his hand and told her that she was not a bought woman. According to him, she was fated to be his wife from before they were even born. He was firm that he would not let anyone call her that. She agrees with him with a soft smile. He told her that they should go back to their place. He offered his hand to her. She held it tightly and they went back. Romanticism and love for each other was in the air. The scene unfolds with Lucio-sama's house where Amanda was seen wishing her young master Lucio-sama morning to be good with a smile. He told her to stop it with the young master already, as he was already 8 years old, and asked if she knew it. She apologizes to him. As to her, he would always be the young master. After a moment, Lucio-sama was contemplating that it had been 2 years since he reincarnated. He had turned 8 years old. He was happy that his work had been going well, and he earned much more than pocket money then. He had enough to buy a house, even. He opened the door of the room where his wife Sylvia was seen embroidering something on the cloth. She welcomed him with a broad smile. He saw her doing embroidery and asked if she was embroidering. He also complimented that she was good with her hands. She asked if he meant it. According to him, she was much more than him, at least, as he could not do something like that. She was listening to him silently as if she was enjoying him talking to her relentlessly. He asked her why they didn't go shopping. She agreed to him. They were busy streets of the city. They entered the shop. The shopkeeper welcomed him by bowing down. It was a form of respect to him. It was the shop of grimoire. He told him that he had got new grimoires for him that day. Lucio asked the kind of grimoires he brought and also asked to show him. The shopkeeper presented him with the 3 grimoires. He looked and then stated that he had already got 2 of them, but one of them was new for him. He told him that he would buy it. He tells him to send it to the mansion as usual and the bill as well. He bowed down to him and told that it was nice doing business with him, and he also thanked him. After exiting, he was seen telling Sylvia that it was always worth buying grimoires, so he visited often. And he could buy as many grimoires as he wanted, if they were not already in the archive, which Grandpa told him so. Sylvia asked if he had read the books he had at room. He said that he did read every one of them. She was stunned and asked if he read every one of them. He replied to her that he did read about 10,000 of them. She was in awe of him and found that to be amazing. A carriage passed by them with a girl sitting in it. It felt like Sylvia saw him, but by then she realized it was too late. She stopped and started wondering the identity of that lady which she saw right then. Lucio asked what was wrong with her. She replied to him that she thought she knew the girl who was in the carriage just then. He ran with her and told her that they should go and take a look. She agreed to him and ran with him. After running for a few meters, they saw the place where it was filled with a number of carriages. She was trying to figure out which one it was. Lucio tries to help her out his magic spells attributes. He told her to leave it to him. He spelled screening to find out the lady in the carriage, who they were looking for. Her carriage started shining. They saw it begin to go there. The lady from the carriage went to the store. They looked at it and figured out her location. The scene begins with both Lucio-sama and his wife Sylvia inside that fishy store. They got to know that might be a slave merchant. The people were tied to the chain. Sylvia was intuitive and told him by stopping him that it was kind of scary there. He gently removed her hands from his hand and put it in his hand and assured her that it was okay. He would be with her. She got convinced. They were going inside the store fearlessly. The people around them were staring at them strangely. One of them approached them and told them that it was not a place for kids and they should get out of there. Lucio told him to hold and introduced himself to him that he was Lucio Martin. After listening to his statement, the guy was stunned and asked if his background was from Martin family. He leaned at him and told him that he was saying he was a Martin and questioned if he was the same as Isekai'd. He replied to him that he was his older brother. The guy told him that he did not know that he was from the Martin family and requested him to forgive his rudeness. He further requested him to follow him. Both Lucio and Sylvia were sitting on a couch. A guy unknown to them opened the door of the room in which they were in. He greeted them and introduced himself to them. According to him, he was the store owner, Galka Baroshi. It was the time for Lucio to introduce him. He told him that his name was Lucio Martin. Galka asked him what kind of slave he was looking for. Lucio replied back that it seemed like the friend of his Waifus there, so they were there to look for her. He asked Sylvia what her name was and how she looked. She told him that her name was Nadia-chan. She was about the same height as her. Lucio contemplated if she was a young girl of their age from a merchant family and asked him if she was there. Galka confirmed that she was there as their merchandise. After listening to him, Sylvia was furious and exclaimed that there was no way for her to be their merchandise. Lucio tries to calm her down by telling her that it was okay. He told him that if she was merchandise then he would buy her. He asked her rate from him. He replied that she was worth 10 million seta. He further said that it was a very good deal and he would send the bill to the Martin family. Lucio told him not to do it as she would pay. Galka asked if he meant it and asked if he knew that was no small amount of money. He replied to him that he knew, so he would prepare it right away. He used his magic attributes and spelled attraction. The 10 million seta was ready for him to pay. Galka was flabbergasted and wondered what in the hell he was. Sylvia applauded him for his skillfulness. He requested him to confirm it. He asked how it was possible and why he did not take the slave with that magic. He answered that this was because he was in the business, as he did not learn magic to use it for stealing. And if he did something like that, Sylvia would definitely not like it. Galka laughed out loud and commented that he got him, as expected of a son of House Martin. He tells his companion that they should bring in the merchandise right away. The door opened with Nadia with a sorrowful face with no hope left in her. Both were happy to save her, especially Sylvia. She was successfully saved. But what would happen to Nadia after that was questionable. The scene unfolds with Nadia Sab being hugged by Sylvia affectionately and fondly. She was stunned and asked if she was really her. Lucio was watching them showcasing love for each other from a distance. Nadia was telling her that she had been worried about her, as no matter what she asked her dad, he just told her to forget about her. Stylish tells her that she was being sorry. Lucio interrupted them and asked her why she was in a place like that. She replied to him that she did not know. According to her, people she did not know just suddenly burst into her house, and they said something about Folklesua, she added. After listening to her, he wondered that it felt similar to Sylvia's story. Nadia asked Sylvia by pointing at Lucio who that guy was. She told him that he was Lucio Sama, who was her husband. She guessed that she did say that she had finance. He glanced at him for a second as he wanted to do something good for her. He contemplated that he would feel bad if he let her keep looking like that. He told her that he hoped that would cheer her up. He used his magic techniques to enlighten her mood. After his spell, she was completely in a new attire, and she was looking tidy and pretty. She was flabbergasted and asked what that was and if he could use magic. Sylvia asked as a proud wife asked her if that was not amazing. She further told her that Lucio Sama knew more than 1,000 spells. Nadia was in awe of him and complimented him that he was amazing. He replied to her by appreciating her looks as she looked cute. It really suits her, he added. She blushed after hearing that. Sylvia asked him what would happen to Nadia-chan after that. This question led Lucio to think about that. They were in the carriage and told her that they should try asking Grandpa when they get home. After letting Grandpa know all the backstory, he asked Lucio why he did not marry her. He asked if he could marry Nadia as well. After asking Grandpa, he wondered if the world was okay with polygamy. He also asked if he did not have a problem with the difference in status or anything. He replied to him that annoying nobles like that do exist, but he did not mind. Grandpa stated that he did have a slave wife himself. Lucio, after hearing him, smirked. Lucio was seen with both the girls and telling Nadia that it seemed marrying her would be the easiest way and asked her for her opinion. She asked if he was for real and if she would get to marry the same person as Sylvia. She cheered herself up and she looked really happy. She told him that she would be his wife and she would do it. He asked Sylvia if she was okay with it. She smiled as usual and said that as long as he said it was fine. He said that after the confirmation that they should do it. He told them that in that case, that room might be a little small for all three of them. According to him, Grandpa also said it might be better to live in a separate building. Since that room was not that big, why they did not move to somewhere else, he asked. Sylvia guessed that he was right and Nadia too agreed to him. The scene unfolds with them being headed to the Bisa suburb that day. Their goal was of course to settle down. According to them it was crazy huge. Sylvia tatters that it was pretty run down. The broker along with them tells them he was terribly sorry. That was the only place he could offer them within their budget. According to Lucio, that man was Carlos Gen. He was the real estate agent that his grandpa introduced to them. It seemed like Nadia really liked that house. Lucio mentioned that they were the ones who should be sorry, as it was because he wanted to use only his own money that they were looking for such a cheap house. Carlos showcased his courtesy and requested him not to apologize, as it was an honor just being of service to the Martin family, and buying a house out of his own pocket as an 8-year-old. He honestly thought it was admirable. According to him, it was not like that was the only house within their budget, but all the other properties have their own circumstances. Lucio was trying to figure out their figures, like it might be the spirits, something like that. Carlos opened the door and told him that was the room he was asking for. All of them entered the room. Nadia commented that it was huge. Meanwhile, Sylvia told Lucio that it was even bigger than his room. He looked at the room and pondered that he could fit a huge bed in there since it was so large. He further thanks Carlos San. He was contemplating that they needed a large bed. Sylvia still had her accidents, after all, he thought. There were patches in the wall. He looked at them and pondered that he could just fix stuff like them with magic. He touched the patches and spelled the magic and it was all fine. He asked the girls what was about them. Nadia told him that it felt relaxing to her. Sylvia all told him that she was fine as long as she was with him. He commented after hearing them that it was settled. He told Carlos that they would take that place. They both shake their hands and Carlos told him that he would pray that he would have a wonderful life. Lucio thanked him for his kind words.